Hello and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, trapped in big picture mode, Sejan Sarowick.
Help! I'm trapped and I can't get out. I got troned into the system.
That'd be awesome. Don't joke about that. I mean, like, all you're going to deal with is master computer, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah. But I get stuck in my own computer, and that's not the computer I want to get stuck in, you know?
yeah, it's running Windows 8, as you'll remind
Exactly.
me every moment of every possible day. Next
Oh,
time we
leave me
have a
alone. I lead a
conversation that,
terrible life.
that doesn't
My
involve Windows 8, I'm going to give you a prize.
my computer is running Windows 8. Leave me alone.
That's a t-shirt. That should be a t-shirt. My computer's running Windows 8. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
You just can't
Okay.
deal.
Hey, it went out. It went away. I'm not trapped
Yay!
anymore.
He's
I'm
not
out, I'm
trapped
out of
anymore.
the system.
He's out of the Matrix.
Yeah. Oh my
Oh,
God,
okay.
man. The trials and tribulations of being a tech nerd in the 21st century. Oh my God, we're getting so old. I was actually looking at a date today that exists in 2022, and I thought that's not real. That's not right. Like everybody's gonna be dead by then, right? It's like,
We're already supposed to be dead. Apparently, Saturday was an end of the world event that we
yeah.
all narrowly avoided. If we're recording
Oh,
this and you're hearing it,
I
so
missed it. Damn. What did I miss?
I don't know. Just someone was like, "The world's gonna end," and like, I'm done with those. I'm done with the world is going to end. I'm going to click away.
But we had our fill of that with 2012 and all of that. That came and went, and everybody was fine.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I got to be honest with you though. Was it 2012? I think it was 2011. Like a year before the whole 2012 death was supposed to happen. There was one. It was like May or June where they were talking about, it must have been June. It was June. Where they were talking about the world is going to end. And I definitely used that to get a girl I was out on a date with to sleep with me. This is not usually what
Oh.
this show is about. It's not Kiss and Tell with Devon Siege. That's another show we're workshopping. But
No, this is Devon and Siege are terrible people. Here's an example.
yeah. But no, like I'm just like the world could end tomorrow, right? Like what are we doing? And
What do we?
what we were doing was each other. But before we get
Hey,
any deeper into this
whoa.
demigod report, oh my god, the innuendos are just flying. Before we get any deeper into this demigod report, we have to make good on a promise from last week, and that's to
Oh.
discuss the Crossing and Young Sheldon. As we record, Young Sheldon is currently on, and I thank God, if there is a God, right? Or I thank Hercules for the fact that I'm recording with you, Sejan, so I don't have to watch Young Sheldon live.
No, instead you just live it. It's fine. It's good.
Oh don't no! How dare you? I mean, I
Oh,
do
there
live
it
it,
is.
right? Like, let's like, if we want to like really break it down. Oh, you're an awful human being.
Yeah, well,
You
you
live
were
it,
making
right?
me do a bunch of things. Yeah. Well, no, not entirely.
And
I'm
the other one.
sociable.
So yeah, so Young Sheldon, it was something that I was kind of okay with, and I had convinced myself the Big Bang Theory was going to be over. So I'm like, that's fine. As long as they're not on at the same time, I can get behind this show. But nope, Big Bang Theory followed by Young Sheldon. I'm probably not going to
Mm,
be watching.
yeah, no, it's a thing. There's an entire hour of your life now dedicated to that story. And it's one of those things like this happens with Chuck Lorre stuff a lot, I think, because he's the one that produces that one, right?
That's correct. He also worked on
Yeah.
Roseanne. This guy is spread all over the television network, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and beyond. He's also got a big Netflix thing going on right now that we've
Don't
talked
bring up
about.
Disjointed again.
I didn't. I specifically avoided naming it. All right, but it's this thing where like, I, how was I gonna put this? They outstay their welcome. I don't know. Like, I'm done with it. Like, I'm so done with it. I can't even think of how to be like smart about this. Like the young Sheldon stuff. eh, I don't know.
Can I tell you why I'm going to
It's
watch Young Sheldon? Like 100% for incongruities with the established canon. I'm going to be
nice.
that guy who's watching Young Sheldon to be like, well, actually, his father passed away when he was 11, and now he's clearly celebrating his 12th birthday party.
Excellent. Please report back. I want to know how this goes. I don't
Like
know,
we've
man.
already done it. Like we went out
Oh,
to.
I just remembered what I was gonna say.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Finish your thing.
They overstay their welcome. Is that what
No,
you're?
beyond that.
Oh,
No, it's
okay.
even beyond that. It's this thing where I believe they overstay their welcome, but it seems like there's enough of an audience that's not true. Because like I'm thinking of all of his other stuff, Two and a Half Men being the prime example of this. That show was around for years, and every year I was surprised to hear that it was still on. Like it would get like halfway through a season and somebody would mention last night's episode of Two and a Half Men, and I was like, what do you mean last night's?
Oh, dude, like when we were in college, right? Like it's 100%. We're in college, and someone mentioned Two and a Half Men, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's still a show? Like this wasn't a rerun on the CW?
Yeah.
What do you mean there
Exactly,
was a
man.
new episode? Yeah, and someone that we went to school with was on it. Oh, good for them, right?
Terrible.
That,
I once met a girl whose claim to fame was that she played a girl in the bar in an episode of Two and a Half Men that like Charlie Sheen picks up, and I was just like,
and you were just
that's
like, winning!
it's one of those moments where you're just like, yeah, that's work. Like, what else do you say to that? It's like, good for that.
There's a guy that
Paid the
we
bills
went to
that night.
school with. He played he was the understudy of Roy Cohn. That way, it's a secret. I didn't say his name, but if you worked on Angels in America, you knew who I'm talking about. And you know how like he was on Rizzolian Isles, and it's the only episode of Rizzolian Isles I have on my computer because he is in it. And you know, like there's always that joke where the person that you recognize is probably the killer.
Mhm.
Because I knew him in real life, I knew who he was. And then I'm like, oh, so he did it? And like, just as a joke, he freaking did it. He was the guy.
That's awesome.
So that was lots of fun. So Young Sheldon, less than enthused. I look forward to it. We're already dealing with continuity errors just based on the promos.
Yeah,
So we,
but check out Rizzoli and Isles. So
which brings us to the other thing. Just because I these ones are dangling and they're ones I wanted to address, which is the Crossing, which is literally someone was watching their South Park DVDs and was like, "Remember that episode where people from the future were coming and taking all the jobs? Why don't we apply that to the problems going on in America right now?"
I like this. I like this. This voice of yours, not South Park character, but South Park viewer.
Oh, you know, we can make $1 million. And then CBS is like sold because whenever we do science fiction stuff, it works. People hate Blue Bloods. It's not the #1 show on TV. It is.
Yeah.
It is the #1 show on TV. And I think that's because old people like to fall asleep to it. I only speak from experience.
Yeah, CBS is really, really good at putting those crime dramas together. But because the other big CBS kind of earthquake this week, I don't know how else to put it, was
I think
Star
you call
Trek
it a
Discovery.
Starquake because it took place on
It was
the
a Starquake.
stars. Yeah, no, people are real upset that like it's not going to be on broadcast TV. And
Well, yeah, because they're being really shitty about the way they're putting it out there, man. Like they're putting half an episode out essentially. Like a 1 hour episode and they've already said it's going to be a big cliffhanger ending, and you're only going to be able to see the second part if you buy into their service.
oh, good. Thank you for letting me know that because it's currently sitting on my DVR. I was totally going to watch it.
At least that's the way they've been promoting it. I don't know how it ever ended up because I just didn't bother looking into it. So, because I will check it out eventually, but I'll check it out when I can get access to all of it, which is when CBS inevitably realizes this is a fool's errand and puts it on Hulu or Netflix.
Yeah, people don't
Um,
want CBS All Access, and you know why I don't want CBS All Access? I'm gonna zoom back just a little bit in order to build this up.
okay.
Yesterday it dropped an episode of Board with Friends that was part of the Turtle Power crossover hour, which was all these podcasts that like I like know people in. They did a huge crossover event to talk about Ninja Turtles for the month of September. So that's fun.
Nice.
Right? It was fun to be part of it because everybody who listens to this show knows I got turtle knowledge on lock. So it was fun
We're
to be.
like the Supergirl of that whole thing. You realize that, right? Like we're kind of tangentially related, but you don't really have to hear our episodes in order to get what's going on.
I like to think that we're the Sleepwalker.
There you go.
Like, because Sleepwalker, the Infinity Gauntlet saga, this is the reason why I read the Infinity Gauntlet saga. Sleepwalker number 7 caused a shift in reality as 4 guys were escaping from a prison. They were able to escape. And then that shift in reality that they passed through gave them all superpowers. But they were chained together. They were a chain gang. And then this sounds as absurd as it truly is.
I'm invested.
So like they get powers like strength and technopathy, and like one of them can shapeshift and one can like take over your mind. And they're a chain gang, so they call themselves the Chain Gang, and they all have names that are like related to that, like Mind Link, Weak Link. Like
oh god,
it's like crazy. But then Strong Link, right? He breaks the chains, and they don't have the powers unless they're chained together. That's
oh man.
So it's this crazy it's the most ridiculous thing. Sleepwalker is my favorite comic book ever. As much as I love the Turtles, but like Sleepwalker was one of those 90s like we put X's and Z's in all of the words type things, like extreme
super
90s stuff.
Yeah, super 90s.
But like,
was every dude super buff?
Oh yeah, dude. It's and it's funny because like Sleepwalker started out like live, and then as like the 90s really bumped up, he got buffer, and I'm just like, okay. And it's basically just Neil Gaiman's Sandman, right?
Okay.
Like the whole marketing for it was Marvel's answer to Sandman. Nuff said. That's how they marketed it.
Nice.
But like Sleepwalker holds a very special place in my heart. And because of that 7th issue, like as like just far off corner of the universe affected by what Thanos was doing with the Infinity Gauntlet, I'm like, well, I gotta read the Infinity Gauntlet, right? Because like, what can this thing do if it's imbuing these guys with superpowers? Okay, so I was in that whole Turtle Power Hour crossover, and I found myself referencing designing women just far more than one should during a Ninja Turtles episode.
No, that's not true. I mean, that's what you do in life, man. I will never forget that one of the first times I ever watched Designing Women was because there was a marathon on of it, and you were like, "You've never seen Designing Women," and you sat me down, and now I hold it very close to my heart.
Actually, and Designing Women has been on my tongue a lot because America's Got Talent. Spoilers for America's Got Talent. There was there was that young girl who sang, and Darcy Lynn won. Like the ventriloquist girl won, but then there was another 12-year-old who like got a kidney from her mother, and she was also of like Asian descent. And all I could think of was that first episode of Designing Women that we watched together, which is where Suzanne is a foster mother to Lee Sing.
Yeah.
And you're just like, they named her Lee Sing? Like, really? Like, that's what they did? This show is brilliant. This show is like the show of the 80s that everybody like wants now.
And it had what's his name on it there?
Meshack Taylor.
Yeah, who like that's the character that dude played, man. Wasn't he also in like Mannequin as that guy?
Well, in Mannequin he was far more flamboyant, but
That's
his
fair.
flamboyancy, Hollywood is his name, right? I feel like there's more to it too. Like he has a funny last name. He was the only one who made it into Mannequin 2 on the Move. So like, you want to talk about it? And then
that's amazing.
And then after Night Court got canceled, remember Night Court? Night Court got canceled, and Harry and Meshack Taylor did a show together called Dave. And that was like the most straight-laced Meshack Taylor ever played. And I loved that show too. Like, I love it. Like, these guys are finally free from Night Court and Designing Women. Let's put them together. And like, no one remembers Dave. No one remembers Dave.
Oh man. So you were talking about Meshack Taylor and Designing Women.
So Designing Women comes up a bunch during that Ninja Turtle thing. And that makes me think of you. And I don't remember how all of this was. Oh, it does all connect together for the exact reason that you're just like, Designing Women holds a special place in my heart. You told that story. You picked up your cue. Nice job. But that was a CBS show. It was on CBS. CBS picked up a lot of the production elements of that show. So when CBS All Access came along, I figured, finally, I'm going to be able to watch Designing Women on some sort of streaming platform. Because, like, I own all of the DVDs, but, like, DVDs, you got to get up, you got to put them in. Like, it's not as easy as, like, Netflix, right? I hate to sound like an impatient millennial, but, like, DVDs have this, like, it's hard to deal with.
Man, it's the era of convenience, right?
Yeah,
it's
right?
why we choose to. It's why we've chosen to go digital, so that we don't have to get up and do that. You're right. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So,
yeah, man.
And it's not on there.
So
it's not on CBS All Access.
Not.
And
oh
I'm
my
just
God.
like, so I'm not gonna get this, right? Like, this is the one thing where I'm like, finally, Designing Women at the blink of a hat. And no.
And like, this is actually a really valid thing to talk about, right? Is the idea is that they don't want to give in to Hulu and Netflix and become part of that system. They want it to be their own, right? But the problem is that if you're going to do something like that, you got to put up or shut up, right? Like, you don't get to say, like, we're going to do this whole thing all by ourselves and then not buy into it as much as possible. Because, like, if you half-ass it and you don't put the shows out there that people want to see, and, all right, like, let's be honest, like, Designing Women is probably top of that list for people, for things that they want to see from CBS. That was a show for a long time.
That was 7 seasons of show.
Right. And it's the perfect show for something, for them to get onto a service like this, because it's one of those shows that, like, we don't talk enough about, but everybody remembers, right? So it's not like it's ruined for everybody yet. Like, Golden Girls for a while was this show, but now we're kind of over Golden Girls because we had our 10 years of, like, talking about how great Golden Girls was. Now is the time for something like Designing Women to step up, right? And this would have been a perfect opportunity for them to have a show that everybody was talking about, like, that they could have put up there. And, like, for me, they're too late because of things like Supergirl. Like, that would have been a really good pull for them probably, but they went and they lost Supergirl last year to CW, and CW ended up doing aces with it. But, like, that would have been a really good get for them, but they lost that too. Like, so for me, there's no point in getting it because they really don't have anything. They're not putting enough into it. I don't care enough about it.
Like, what? Like, I don't want to watch NCIS on demand. Like, the fun part of NCIS for me is not the mystery within the NCIS, but it is flicking through the channels, an episode of NCIS is on, and I have to figure out what season it is based on context clues.
Well, and it is the perfect kind of network for that, right? Like, CBS is the show that's kind of on at your grandmother's house. CBS is the network that, like, you don't really watch. It's just like, oh, what are we going to put on while we make dinner, right? Like, that is what CBS is in our lives. They don't fit into this whole streaming service world. They really don't. And they've known that for a while, which is why they haven't really given into any of it. But, like, they don't get to make their own, as far as I'm concerned. I'll be very surprised to see what they do with it, you know, and maybe enough people buy into it at first that they can actually put some muscle behind it and get more on there. But, like, you look at, like, Fox apps and you look at ABC apps, and yeah, they don't have much on them, but that's okay because they're also putting stuff on Netflix and Hulu. So a lot of the stuff I want, I do have access to. So, like, I think of Fox and ABC on a regular basis. But you know what I don't watch any of nowadays? I am a cord cutter. I don't watch CBS at all. Right, like, nothing gets me to CBS. The one thing that would have gotten me to CBS maybe was that I thought about for like a second was Odd Couple, and now that's not on anymore.
And that
is
show
is that on All Access?
Probably because they own it. Like, I'd like to imagine that all of these shows. You know what show I would like could honestly get me to CBS All Access is Two Broke Girls. This show that, like, when it first came out, all we did, like, we used to joke in our house was like, all right, how many times do you think they're going to say vagina? All right, whoever is closest without going over wins, right? And then, like, somewhere along the line of playing this stupid how many times are they going to say vagina game, like, I fell in love with that show. Like, it demonstrated so much heart and just, like, care for its characters and its continuity and its world that I'm a fan of Two Broke Girls, but I just fell off. Like, I fell off in the 4th season, and it continued to run, and I would love to just sit down and watch the entire series of Two Broke Girls.
So do they do that, or do they just put up like, here's 5 select episodes, right?
Well, I mean, I
Like,
don't know. I've never signed up for CBS All Access. Like the way that we're talking about it, I feel like if there's a free trial, we owe it to society to like give it a free try and see if it is worth it. If it's,
well then, okay. Is this the promise for this week?
I
Are we gonna
guess
give
this is
a
the
shot?
promise, right? We're doing it in the middle until the end, so it's not like half-assed and like I have to think about it every morning when I wake up and every night before I go to bed, so I don't forget to mention the Crossing and Young Sheldon. The Crossing seems like a good idea, but I don't think it's going to last because CBS doesn't last in with sci-fi stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
they did that extant one with Halle Berry that went nowhere.
Didn't they have the Jason Isaacs one, Awake? Wasn't that them too,
I
or was that
believe so.
NBC? Yeah.
I don't know, but Awake went nowhere.
Which is a shame because it was such a great concept. But yeah, yeah.
And they had
So,
Under
well,
the
sci-
Dome, which was like a summer show. So like,
and it did kind of well for them, but I think they screwed that up when they went from saying it was going to be a miniseries to it doing so well that they were like, let's make it a whole series, and then of course it fell apart,
and
right?
that's CBS's MO. Like that's their biggest issue. Because How I Met Your Mother, and let's just talk about it because I found my DVDs of How I Met Your Mother today, would have been excellent if they could have told the story that they wanted to tell. Right? Because you could
Well,
tell
yeah,
in that first season they had a plan. And
yeah.
you
So
could
what
tell
was
in the
their
last season
plan, you
that they
think?
had a plan. Like you could tell
But
it like, oh, but now we gotta wrangle in all the bullshit that we like dicked around with for
yeah,
like 8 more years than we wanted or expected from this series. And
oops.
tie it back together. And I think that's actually the biggest foible of How I Met Your Mother is that the show had evolved so much. And in the end, like I was not watching weekly. I was catching up when I could, but that final season I saw every single episode within a day of it airing. Because I'm like, I want to see how it ends, right? I'm friggin' I hate that I'm so invested in it, but I gotta see where like Ted Mosby meets the mom, right? And rather than like evolve as they should have, they went back to what their original plan was. And that just felt like, wow, why?
Well, you know, that's the Friends. It's the Friends conundrum. They spent that entire series talking about how it was Ross and Rachel, Ross and Rachel, Ross and Rachel. That when they got to the end of that series, and nobody wanted Ross and Rachel together anymore, they were just like, yeah, but that's the story of Friends, right? And then so you end up with this ending that is, you know, fine for Friends, but imagine if they had gone a different way and she doesn't end up with Ross, which after everything that happens in that series, she shouldn't have, right? Like, like that's just not the way that that series was going for
The
about
only way for
3 years.
the only way for Friends to end on a good note for me is if Chandler divorces Monica. Because
Oh
that was when
God.
that show died for me.
No. Bullshit.
Yes.
That was like perfection. Chandler with
Oh.
Monica, Ross with Emily, like they definitely had their matchups that would have worked out great.
Chandler and Monica was terrible. That's when I like really like fell out of interest with the show because I loved Chandler. I'm gonna say for obvious reasons and just hope that like people connect the dots enough, right? I don't know, but yeah. Then I'm like, why would he want to be with Monica? And then like also, if it's that same self reflection, I found myself attracted to a lot of Monicas in my life. And then I'm like, but why? Why do I find this attractive? No, friends, no. I'm denying you your cultural friggin' Pavlovian response.
Oh, is that all you think it was, and not that they were just hitting like an honest bone? I think you just didn't like how truthful it was. That's all.
Yeah, right. Probably. Let's be
But
straight
yeah,
with it.
man. So like, but that's exactly the same problem, right? That something like How I Met Your Mother has.
Or
And the
Lost,
thing is
right?
that
Lost, they
yep,
had
Lost.
no plan of going.
Right. But CBS definitely has a habit of doing that with everything, right? So How I Met Your Mother went on way too long, and Two and a Half Men way too long. Big Bang Theory's been going on way too long. It's just crazy. Like, like they seem to be so like they want to have a hit so bad that they just refuse to let go of stuff. And now with Big Bang Theory, they're doing this spin-off thing, and that's just killer, you know?
I mean, yeah, that's poison. Doing a spinoff while the show is still running, unless your name is Gary Marshall, doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh,
I don't.
Morty.
And we're going to talk straight. I'm real happy that CBS somehow became like the target of our intro here for obvious reasons, right? Like this was not a vendetta I planned to come into the ring with. It's just one that evolved naturally and organically. Tonight, Kevin Can Wait season 2 premieres, right? We're going to finish recording this episode. I'm going to watch that episode, and it's probably going to be the last episode of Kevin Can Wait that I ever watch. And that makes me sad, because I really enjoyed the show, but Erin Hayes was his wife in the first season, and then they had Leah Remini guest star for 2 episodes, and now his wife has died, and Leah Remini is like his new wife?
Weird. Yeah, really weird, man. We talked about this a few episodes back, I think, and how how do you look that actress in the face? Don't know, man.
I know that we definitely
business.
already talked about it, but I feel like I don't know.
It's important to bring it back up. Like
we're close to it
that's
right
because
now.
it's happening. Yeah, it's happening tonight, and like that's a weird thing.
And as much as I don't want to watch, as much as like in my very fiber of my bones, I'm like I don't want to give them my eyeballs for half an hour, right? Like they've betrayed. She was one of my favorite parts of that show, and like granted this because I like that actress, but also I really liked her relationship with Kevin James's character. Right? It felt like a real married couple, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like there are not enough of those on TV.
Yeah, we can't have that on television. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
We can't have real couples being happy and surviving, but also like struggling sometimes. That's ridiculous.
Real couples don't talk to each other sarcastically. Yeah, they do. Have you been to Thanksgiving at your parents' house lately? Because it's how you get by. It's got to be the only thing that gets you through. But I'm gonna watch because like I first of all I want to see if they do her justice. Like I want to make sure that Erin Hayes' character Donna didn't like Charlie Sheen herself to bring up 2.5 Men.
Yeah, right. I don't know, man. Like, so is she officially dying? Like, no coming back possible, or is this like one of those we're just written out of those?
No, I mean I don't know. Like from all accounts, it looks like she's going to have passed away. So I mean that'll be another thing that I'll get to report back to next week on the Say Report.
Weird.
So you'll have
weird story endings. I mean, that's just so unsatisfying, man. Like having that end like that is just I don't know, upsetting. Like, are they going to rebrand the show completely? Like, they might as well just rename it, right? Like,
I guess. I mean, that's what's going to happen. But you know what? Speaking of unsatisfying endings, Sejun.
Oh.
3 years ago, I wrote something on your Facebook wall that you never responded to. You just you saw it. You saw that you were tagged in it, and were like, nope. And the reason why I wrote that thing was because you had shared a cinematic experience with me, and if there's any person in the world who might actually have something to say on it, it's you. This is my thought process years and years ago. And thanks to the beauty of Facebook and its On This Day memory app, that came up over the weekend, and I promised you that I would bring it up. Sejun, is Hercules the Jesus of Greek belief? Please discuss.
Man, why you drop this on me in front of everybody? I don't know, man. Like, I guess if you really want to take a look at it, I don't know. He has a lot of similarities, and there's definitely the whole like half man, half god situation.
He's a
and
demigod.
Of course
He's a demigod.
Yeah, and then he does die, saving tons of people, all that sort of stuff. But I'm trying to remember exactly why you asked this. Was this because we saw Hercules in theaters?
It was not. It wasn't just because we saw Hercules in theaters, but like
Was it because at the climactic moment of that movie, you turned to me and whispered in my ear, "My wife"?
It could be that. It could be that.
After he screams, "My wife."
My wife. That was bad.
It was terrible because we were kind of in a not crowded theater, but enough people to be embarrassed. And you whisper this to me when I'm almost in tears at this dumb Dwayne Johnson movie, and I lost it. I almost screamed. Oh my god.
The worst part about that was we were also like the furthest forward in the theater. So it's not like people didn't hear our reaction. They also saw it as well. Because you
I
were
also
like,
stand, but the thing is we were also the only ones I think enjoying that movie to the extent that it
oh,
deserved
yeah,
because we were
that's.
like having a good time at that film. We were just laughing at everything going on with I was gonna say Ian McShane. It's Ian McShane,
It's
right?
Ian McShane. The
Yeah,
movie
man.
is fantastic. Like, the
Every time
cast
he
in that
goes,
film is
yeah.
insane.
And that dude Rufus, the guy that's always a villain, and the second he shows up, you're just like, oh, something's not right with him. And sure enough, something wasn't right with him.
I really, we should rewatch that one. Like, if I can like put in a suggestion box, 2014's Hercules, definitely special episode material.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about the movie, especially because that's one of my favorite movies to talk about because of how they marketed it versus what it actually
Oh
ended
my
up
god,
being. Were
and
two
that's
very different movies.
right. So the whole thought process behind me posting that on your wall years ago was that same year, 2014 was a big year for the Hercules film because in January of that year they released The Legend of Hercules.
Right, that's right. There
That
was the dueling Hercules films,
yeah.
which happens every few years. You get these dueling films, Deep Impact and Armageddon being the big two.
Volcano and Dante's Peak.
I forgot those were in the same
Yep.
year. Yeah.
95, buddy. They're all the time. Like that stuff happens all the time. But
There was Observe and Report and Paul Blart Mall Cop in the same year.
yes, that's. Oh, I had another one. Like Observe and Report triggered one, but
I
I just
actually,
lost
I
it.
actually have some pretty good. I think I did some pretty good detective work on those two, though, and I figured out that they would have conceived and written that movie, both of those movies, while Seth Rogen and Adam Sandler were both working together on Funny People. So I stand by the fact that they were thinking about making a movie together, and then slowly Seth Rogen realized what kind of movie Adam Sandler really wanted to make, and was like, "Nah," and he backs away and makes Observe and
No,
Report.
they were
and
gonna
Adam
make
Sandler
a,
goes
they
off
were gonna
Paul
make a
Blart.
movie together, and then Funny People came out, and they're like, this was a bad combination. This was not
both-
peanut butter and chocolate.
But they both really liked that mall cop idea.
Yeah.
They were just like, something about that mall cop idea, though. I'm gonna go with
I
that.
think we can do it. I think we can make it work, but we can't work together.
So they tried. But anyway, yeah. So these
it's
kinds
one
of
of
movies
those,
come
so
out
it's one
all
of
the
those
time.
weird
So.
dueling like movie sort of narrative things, and what it did inspired it is that movie was on and I watched it, The Legend of Hercules, not just Hercules, and that movie for real starts with like almost pornographic Zeus banging Hercules' mom.
Whoa.
Like there's no an angel came down and said to the Virgin Mary, "You shall be the vessel for his son." It's like God showed up with some Bartles and James and was like, "Yo, I want to see what happens when I do it with one of you people." Meaning humans.
And so thus Hercules was born. And yeah, man, I don't know. There's a lot of really weird Jesus-y type stories though in Greek mythology, because like even Dionysus has a weird kind of Greek like has a weird, Christ thing going on with his whole death and rebirth thing, and like being born in Zeus's leg or whatever it is, like born of God, right? And so like all it does is, to me, is it harkens back to the idea that all religions kind of seem to borrow from one another when it comes to these stories,
right? And
right?
so that's the reason why I like so that was the scene that occurred, and like I couldn't get it out of my head, right? You don't forget like the God of Gods just like getting down with some like stable lady. You don't forget it. You don't forget it, but
you never forget your first time, do you?
Santana was on in the background.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. Some like Caligula style Hercules story, but with like modern music all put behind it.
Okay, patent pending. That's
movie.
good. Because
Yeah.
I just want smooth happening. Because I'm from the barrio.
Oh god.
And then I got to thinking about, okay, so huge spoilers for 2014's Hercules. If you haven't seen it, you're probably not. And that's foo on you, okay? It is going to be on Spike TV on September 30th. Find someone who still has cable and watch it.
It's find somebody that has a cable package that still carries Spike.
I don't know. I think I got that movie. It was one of those Black Friday specials on Blu-ray at Walmart
Yep. For like
for
$5,
like
right?
nothing, like $2.
Yeah. I definitely got one of those, but I waited till after Christmas, so they were still like they went down to like 99 cents. Yeah.
Like it's one of those movies that like you should see it. But what Siege said, right? The marketing versus what the film is, and this is one of those rare things where like actually behooved the film because. You watch that film. Also, great moment in that is the Expendables 3 trailer played before it. And there's a sequence in that trailer, and you turn to me and go, that's the end of the movie. That's the end of Expendables 3 that we just saw.
There is. They play that movie and then they show a part where they, I'm pretty sure, kill the bad guy or like do like a say like a line of the bad guy. And then, like,
it's the celebration afterwards.
It's when they're celebrating because all of those movies end with them all drinking and getting tattoos and playing darts.
Yep.
Like that's how all of those movies end. And they showed that scene and I was just like, well, I've seen Expendables 1 and 2, so what they just showed us right there is the end of the movie. And guess who lives?
And then I saw Expendables 3, and I'm like, that son of a fucking bitch. That's the end of this movie. But, okay, so it behooves it. Like, Hercules not being how they marketed it is actually brilliant. And the reason why is because the first one to, like, come into the ring, right, really played with the whole, like, gods are real, Hercules is Zeus's son, obviously.
Yeah, clearly, plain and like as clear as day. We saw him be conceived.
Like
we
the
know
only
for a fact.
thing you didn't see was the actual sperm leaving his godlike penis and zooping up. We didn't do a look who's talking opening. Oh my god, we right now have come up with the worst movie ever, and all I want to do is make it. You have the hardcore fucking Zeus fucking with Smooth by Santana in the background. And then like, oh god, and then it's a look who's talking opening.
You have to hear the zoop apparently.
And into a look who's talking opening, like just medical tape footage of a spermatozoa fertilizing.
Only if Santana ends and some free public domain classical song starts playing as the sperm is like going up into the egg, like dun 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 dun.
Bwamp, 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 bwamp. I want it to be the Smash Brothers song. Bwamp, 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 bwamp.
Oh my god!
All right, so what Hercules? so what?
So when Hercules gets marketed, we have to do that first, right?
That's what I'm trying to say.
So when Hercules gets marketed, they put all these previews out of just Dwayne Johnson punching like mythical creatures in the face, right? Like a lion jumps at him and he rips its jaw off. A boar comes at him and he flips it over his head, right? Like that's how they marketed that entire movie. And so we went to go see this movie because we were just like, I want to see Dwayne Johnson beat the crap out of some things. And yeah, okay, he's Hercules, whatever. It's an excuse for him to beat up mythical creatures. I don't care. So we go and the movie starts. And everything that you saw in the preview, you see in the first 5 minutes of that movie. He rips off the jaw of a lion. He flips a wild boar. He takes on a fucking eagle or some shit like that. Like he goes after these things within the first 5 minutes. And so I turned to you, and I'm pretty sure Kevin was there too. And I'm pretty sure that we looked at each other. We all just went, "Is this the movie? Are we done? Is this the end?" And then that's when it pulls out to reveal Ian McShane and the rest of this phenomenal film.
That ends with, and these are the real spoilers right here, right? The real spoilers are all of those things that you saw in the opening, you see how they really happened. And how, like, Ian McShane is basically Chaucer from the Heath Ledger A Knight's Tale, and he has embellished them to be, like, Hercules the fucking guy, right? Yeah. He's the guy that you want to, like, throw your olive leaves at.
So literally, as credits are rolling, they're showing you how they actually pulled off all of the feats, and they're, like, not impressive, right? Well, I mean, they're still kind of impressive.
Well,
That's
it's still
the part
impressive, like, because it's like a team of 5 people.
Right,
but
it's not just Hercules doing this. You find out that he's had a team of people helping him the whole time. So, like, when he kills the lion, it pulls back and reveals that there were four other dudes distracting it or something, right? Or when he flips the wild boar, they pull back and they reveal that it was pushed by like by his
dude, the
friend, right?
best one was that
Like,
the Hydra was just like a helmet.
yeah.
Like
They
it's
pull back
like
and reveal the Hydra was just an insignia on another army's helmet, right?
yeah,
Right.
like just these great moments, like taking like showing how like things that just naturally happened through storytelling in those times become myths and almost like
And that's what the whole point of the movie
rhetoric.
is, right?
Yeah.
It's this whole struggle. It's this struggle with him dealing with the fact that people even within the movie believe these stories to be true, and he's just yeah, okay, I like he's capable of really good, like great things. Like he is beyond human in that movie, but like the point is that he's not nearly as mythic as the stories make him seem, and it's this really weird counterpoint to the sex fueled action romp that Legend of
Oh
Hercules was 9 months
no,
earlier.
I'm sorry. The beginning of Legend of Hercules is a sex-fueled romp that then turns into basically the Trade Federation stuff from the Star Wars prequels. It's a
Yay.
lot of talking and not a lot of Hercules killing stuff. It is cool that it focuses on different points of his life, though. I will give them credit for that. But so the reason why, though, is that first one is all about gods are real. This is the story of how gods are real. And the other one is like, this is how it really happened. Hercules 11 robbed the Bellagio, and here's what they did. And so the reason why I asked is like, it's sort of this weird demonstration for me, disproving all of the tales of Jesus Christ.
Oh
So
man,
that's
here
why
we
I'm
go.
like,
Roundabout.
no, I mean, like, so that's why I'm like, so is he like that? Because if so, I could mount like a pretty good discussion on how like he had these people with him and they were telling these stories, but of course, like embellishment because you got to keep people interested, right? Like Shakespeare stuff, they were doing it all the time. The stuff that we read as Shakespeare was probably not the stuff you were seeing if you went to go see
Okay.
the show.
I'm only saying this because we're veering really close to this, and now people are probably yelling at their iPods if I haven't said this yet. Basically, Hercules 2014 is Shakespeare in love.
I
But
hate
for
Shakespeare in
Hercules.
Love. No.
It's for Hercules, but it's that same idea where like you see all of this stuff happen, and you're just like, oh, that's where that story comes from. Oh, that's where that story comes from. A lot of that sort of stuff happens in Hercules too. So like anybody out there that's like, that sounds like Shakespeare in Love, only because we got this close, we mentioned Shakespeare. But okay, sorry, going back
Well,
to
I
what you were
just feel
saying.
like it's easier to like say you're trying to disprove Shakespeare and the stuff that happened there than to like actually take on the giant like creature that is Christianity. Like, and that's not what my intention is, right? But like that was my thought process. Was like was well like
This is a
here
dangerous game we're playing here tonight.
we're not
We're getting
playing
real on the
high
same
lie
report.
and we're not hunting humans. It's oh, you said dangerous, not deadly. Yeah, it's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game. Um, it's just because it's like one of those things where it's like it also is always so strange to me that like yeah, but Hercules is clearly a myth, but Jesus, he probably real. Like I don't that kind of stuff. Just it's very difficult for me to
Yeah,
be
man.
like I can look at this one thing objectively and say that it is false, even though it has a lot of the same tropes as this thing that I'm going to base my life around.
Ta-da, humans. Like,
Right?
man,
That's true. I
that's
mean, I
well, think of it this way. What like one of the most proven and upsetting facts of all time is that if you prove somebody's point wrong, it only makes them believe it further. You know what I mean? Like the more evidence you produce against a thing that a person believes, the stronger they happen to believe that thing,
the more
right?
they'll
Like
dig their
that's just a
heels. It's true.
right.
It's why
Right. And
all
so
of these
like that's what you're
protests. Ugh,
that's what you're getting at, right? Is
yeah.
like at the end of the day, is you're talking about this idea that it is introducing an idea. Maybe we shouldn't blame them for this. Maybe this is not an idea they intended to introduce, but they're producing this idea that hey, like sometimes the stories we hear are just that stories, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing, as that movie talks about as well. Like it's not necessarily a bad thing to have these stories that give us hope and relaxation and satisfaction, right? But like it is something. So weirdly connected to Ricky Gervais. What was the
Oh, the
the
invention of
invention of lying?
lying.
the invention of lying, right? Like want to get to movies with that kind of point to them, right? The idea that like we tell these stories is because they're comforting, but we still have to remember at the end of the day that they are still just stories, right? And like you're talking about something that many a person has tried to say before, and many a person has been burned at the stake for saying. And Jesus himself, I think would be one of the first people to point to as somebody that like got up there and said some of this stuff, and it didn't work out well for him.
That's a real good fair point that you just brought up there, Sejan. But I think the actual focus of it is that on their own, neither one of those Hercules films do that. The Legends of Hercules, like they've doubled down on the fact that yes, he is actually the sire, God sired him. Where like the other one is like, no, here's how it really happened. But it's when you have the two, the dichotomy that they form is what really brings up that question of, So here's two accounts of basically the same story, and then it spirals out from that because of its similarities to other stories. And that was really the conversation that I wanted to have with you years ago, and I thank you eternally for having it here tonight with me, finally.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, it's an interesting idea, and like then it like when you buy into that idea that like two stories focused on the same subject matter but approached it in different ways, right? Like suddenly you start to understand why there's like 10 World War II movies made every year and things like that, right? Like there always seems to be more to say on this sort of stuff, you know, and it's also part of the reason why I don't mind them going back and mining stuff for more stories, you know, 10 years, 20 years later. People get pissed off because they release a sequel to Kill a Mockingbird, but you know, like if there was more to say in that area, there was more to say. And like sometimes that stuff doesn't pay off.
I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird's an interesting one to bring up because the author herself was the reason that wasn't released.
Well, and then that's a whole other conversation to have, right? Is like, well, then in that case, who gets to decide when there's more story? Because you look at something like after Douglas Adams passed away, and then they handed off Hitchhikers and that whole universe to other writers, you know, and there's an interesting conversation to be had there about like who gets the right to those stories, right? But it all leads back to the same thing, man, is like at the end of the day, stories are still made up, and like they're only made to comfort and help and teach and push agendas, and they're made for a reason, right? So,
no,
like,
you're right. I mean, you're not wrong. That's a very strong thing to come out of all of this like really nasty terrain that we just walked through, is that yes, right? Like Douglas Adams passes away, and then Eowyn Colfer of Aragon. Is it Aragon that he did?
No. Artemis Fowl.
He did Artemis Fowl. Sorry. I get those two confused because they both start with vowels. That's literally the reason why. I just want you to know that. I looked at those books when I was at the Stop and Shop, and I'm like, all right, these ones start with vowels. Probably never going to read them.
These are the vowel books.
I like my books to start with a consonant. It's why I like anything that starts with the. I know what I'm getting with a consonant story. Name a good vowel story, Siege, and I'll wait.
Oh, man. How do you feel about Yours, Mine, and Ours?
Oh, nice. That was a solid one. I guess sometimes it counts as a vowel story. I like that it's a remake. That's my favorite part. And I don't think I would have been able to pull that if I hadn't been at a used records and movie store yesterday and saw a DVD of the original 1940s release of Yours, Mine, and Ours. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a remake. Oh, it doesn't have Steve Martin, right? It's cheaper by the dozen. It's another one of those like dueling movies. And they're both remakes of things from the past.
Yeah, so do you like yours with a little more Dennis Quaid or a little more Steve Martin? Which way do you want to go?
The problem for me is actually the Ashton Kutcher Jessica Biel connection.
All right.
I think that's where it goes. I don't know. One of them has Hilary Duff, right? You've done this is terrible what you've done, because now I'm gonna have to watch both of those terrible movies. The remakes, the originals are pretty good, and you know what? The remakes are not terrible, right? But they're not things that I'm excited to watch.
You know who's in one of them? I'm pretty sure it's Yours, Mine, and Ours, but I might
Tom
get you by the
Billington.
dozen. Tom Billington, yeah, man.
I love you. I love that I can do that. We finish each other's sandwiches. Really, Sejan says I'm done with this sandwich, and then I'm like, well, I'll eat it. Don't throw it away. It's not
That's
like
how every episode of this show goes. We hit right about now, and I say, all right, I'm done with this. And you say, well, I'm still eating.
I mean, that's half a meatball sub, Sejan. And then I like to believe that in your head you're like, I was going to save it for lunch tomorrow. But
just a tear rolls down my eye.
Oh, and it'll be fun continuity when, like, that one day you break. Like, no, I'm finishing it. It's lunch tomorrow.
I get to finish this episode.
Oh, God, this was fun. This is more fun than I expected. When I'm like, I'm finally going to have that conversation about Hercules. I'm going to trap him.
I like that that's what you do, though. You come to the episode just trying to catch me off guard or something. This is how we work, people.
I 100% responded to that post from years ago saying, we're finally talking about this, Sejan. And again, you got a notification. You looked at it and were like, nope.
Nope.
I'll distract him. We'll play Zelda.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot Facebook pole.
I'm not even going to poke it with a 10-foot
digital farm poles.
Oh, jeez. Whew. It is very warm in Rhode Island today. I don't know why.
Oh, is this why you're losing your mind?
I believe so. Dude, I drank a gallon of water at work today because they shut off the AC for the entire building. Like last week because it was like cold and hurricaney.
Oh, and they were
like, and then like 90 degrees today, and it's like,
Yep, we're all going to hell in a handbasket, man. Here we go. This is it. This is the start.
Oh, jeez, this is it, right? Football stops and it gets real hot. Maybe we did suffer a world-ending event, and we're just waiting for the ripples to catch up with us.
Oh dear. All right, well, I'm gonna go reread the Langoliers. So.
Perfect. That seems like the perfect way to end this. And you said you were going to end it. So, Sejan, do the outro.
Okay,
Bye
well, if you want to get a hold of Devon and I, you can get Devon on Twitter at Devon D. Decker, or you can get me at Siege versus the World. Also, you can always just find the Say Report. Also, you guys should check out the Facebook page. And also, we're still doing the YouTube thing. And I know you're listening to us here, and you might be listening to us on YouTube, and thank you for that. And if you're not, just go put YouTube on in, like, your office. Sneak over to other people's computers and just put it on in the background. Like, you can even mute it so they don't even have to listen to it. But, you know, the more listens we get, the better. With that, I think I'm going to have to go say, oh, I get to steal this line from Devon. Hold on, wait for it. Take it away, Will.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host, Devon Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.